Amelia's childhood was marked by hardship. Her mother battled severe asthma, and her father, a former soldier, lost his leg in an accident during his deployment in Afghanistan. The compensation he was entitled to never came, leaving the family mired in financial distress. As a young child of 4, Amelia couldn't even comprehend the bureaucracy needed to secure their rights, and as she grew older, the weight of these struggles only intensified. When her mother became pregnant with 2 sons, Vincent and Aaron, the family's financial challenges deepened. Despite her dreams of becoming a doctor, dreams fueled by a desire to care for her ailing mother, Amelia was forced to drop out of school to help support the family. She took on work as a waitress in the mornings and sold goods at the local farmers market in the afternoons. Every day, she battled the dual pressure of making ends meet and preserving the hope of a better future. One critical afternoon at the coffee shop where she worked, the situation reached a breaking point. With a daunting $3,000 monthly rent and daily expenses that left little room for error, the looming threat of eviction haunted her every move. Mrs. Maddie, the strict landlord, made it clear that any further delay in rent payment would mean losing their home. Amid the chaos of unpaid bills and mounting responsibilities, Amelia's path unexpectedly crossed with that of a strikingly handsome customer. After serving him his coffee, Amelia discovered that he had accidentally left behind his business card. On impulse, and with nothing left to lose, she dialed the number. The man on the other end was James Zardo, whose commanding voice and confident demeanor offered a glimmer of hope. He arranged a meeting at a location called The Crossing. Though hesitant, Amelia, desperate for a solution, agreed to meet him. The meeting took her far from the familiar grind of her everyday life. A driver picked her up and brought her to an upscale subdivision, complete with a sprawling mansion, guarded gates, and an air of luxury that was completely alien to her. Inside the grand estate, she was greeted by a courteous older woman who led her to a magnificent dining room where James awaited. In that room, surrounded by opulent decor and the quiet hum of luxury, James listened as Amelia explained her dire circumstances, her mother's failing health, her father's loss, and the crushing burden of debt. With a booming voice that filled the space, he offered her a proposal. He would help her out financially if she agreed to provide him with her intimacy. Though the idea repulsed her, the desperate need to save her family left Amelia with little choice. Reluctantly, she agreed to the arrangement, and that night, in a lavish suite filled with dim red light and tension, their fateful encounter unfolded. The night was a collision of desire, fear, and sorrow. James's commanding presence and rough caresses forced Amelia into a situation where she felt both violated and strangely hopeful. In the quiet moments that followed, as she lay on the bed, the reality of her decision set in. Yet when she awoke the next morning, an envelope containing $30,000 was waiting, a sum that would cover their overdue rent and more, offering a temporary reprieve from their relentless financial struggles. In the days that followed, Amelia's life began to straddle 2 very different worlds. By day, she continued her work at the coffee shop and the farmer's market, where she encountered James again, this time arriving with men in uniform to enforce his authority. At the market, he insisted that the stall owner honor his payment for the goods, asserting, "She's my employee." Despite the intimidating spectacle, the money he provided began to make a tangible difference, if only for a short while. As their encounters grew more frequent, what began as a transactional arrangement slowly morphed into a complicated relationship. James started to call Amelia outside the strict confines of their initial agreement. Over meals in upscale restaurants, amid conversations laden with playful teasing and unspoken tension, he proposed a new arrangement. He wanted her as his official partner, a personal assistant, and a woman who would always be by his side. Even though Christina, his current girlfriend, still loomed over the relationship like a dark cloud, Amelia found herself drawn to James's charisma and the undeniable improvements his money brought to her family's lives. Their evolving relationship was never free of complications. Christina, a refined and educated woman, openly confronted Amelia on several occasions. In one instance at a mall, Christina's icy remarks about Amelia's humble origins and lack of sophistication stung deeply. James, protective and mocking, brushed aside Christina's insults with a mix of humor and thinly veiled threats. "Amelia means more to me than any shallow pretensions," he declared, insisting that despite appearances, she was the one who truly mattered. These confrontations only deepened Amelia's internal conflict as she struggled with her growing dependence on James and her desire for self-respect. One day, James invited Amelia to his office, a space locked away from prying eyes. where their passion ignited in a burst of forbidden intimacy. In the secrecy of that room, amidst whispered jokes and playful challenges, they shared an encounter that blurred the lines between duty and desire. Although Amelia occasionally questioned whether she was merely a means to an end, the comfort of James's touch and the promise of financial stability kept her tethered to him. Over time, James's influence began to reshape every aspect of Amelia's life. He wasn't content with their arrangement remaining a mere escape from poverty. Determined to transform her entire world, he started to use his considerable resources to help her family. He arranged for scholarships for Vincent and Erin, pushed through her father's long-overdue pension, and even provided a new home, a spacious, gated residence that signified a fresh start. Her father, once burdened by despair and physical limitations, now prepared for a new prosthetic leg, and her mother received the care she desperately needed. Although Amelia's heart bore the scars of past exploitation, she could not ignore the tangible improvements in their lives. In the midst of this transformation, the bond between Amelia and James deepened. Their connection evolved from one built on a desperate bargain into a relationship that, while complex and uneven, was undeniably affectionate. One intimate morning in his office, after playful banter and tender confessions, James declared his wish for a permanent commitment. He proposed marriage, a notion that both thrilled and terrified Amelia. Deep down, she knew that accepting him fully meant surrendering to a past marked by exploitation and heartache. Yet, the promise of security for her family and the hope of a loving future were too compelling to resist. Despite her initial reservations, Amelia eventually agreed. Their wedding was a modest affair far from extravagant but filled with genuine emotion. James's parents welcomed her warmly, remarking on her authenticity, while Christina, unable to contend with the shifting dynamics, left the country. Now, as newlyweds, Amelia and James began a new chapter together. Their marriage brought stability, and the life-changing changes that James had initiated began to ripple out through every aspect of Amelia's world. Soon after the wedding, life settled into a hopeful rhythm. Amelia moved into James's home, and their days filled with small routines and shared moments of tenderness. One evening, while watching the sunset from the porch, an unsettling pain in her stomach set off alarm bells. Rushing to the bathroom, she experienced churning discomfort, and James, ever watchful, followed her. After soothing her and guiding her back to bed, his eyes lit up with a mix of relief and joy when he realized what the pain signified. Amelia was pregnant. The news of her pregnancy transformed everything. James's declarations of love and promises to shoulder every responsibility that lay ahead filled the room with an almost palpable hope. The arrival of a new life meant that all the sacrifices, all the difficult nights and painful decisions were now part of a larger plan, a future where family, stability, and love could flourish. Amelia's parents, witnessing firsthand the improvements in their lives from her father's newfound mobility to her mother's better health, could scarcely believe the turnaround. Their modest existence had been given new meaning by the wealth and influence that James brought into their lives. In the days leading up to a celebratory baby shower, a gathering that grew to accommodate not just close family but an entire community, both families began to merge their lives more completely. James's parents, who had once been distant and skeptical, now embraced Amelia as one of their own, thrilled at the prospect of future grandchildren. Amid the laughter, playful teasing, and the heartfelt joy of shared hopes, Amelia realized that every hardship she had endured had, in its own way, led her to this transformative moment. Standing on the porch of their new home, with the sun setting in brilliant hues of promise, Amelia embraced James tightly. Their journey, from the depths of despair, through a series of desperate bargains and painful compromises, to a life filled with hope and familial warmth, had been fraught with challenges. Yet, as she looked into his eyes, she no longer saw the remnants of exploitation or coercion. Instead, she saw the man who had rescued her from a life of poverty, who had turned her tears into a future, and who now stood by her side as both partner and savior. Their love was as complicated as it was genuine, a tapestry woven from threads of sacrifice, power struggles, and the shared pursuit of a better life. And though the past would always linger in their memories, the promise of a united, hopeful future shone brightly. In that tender twilight, as the gentle murmur of their new home promised a lifetime of shared dreams, Amelia silently thanked fate for giving her a second chance. Despite all that had been sacrificed, she finally had everything she had ever longed for: love, security, and a future filled with hope. The story's meaning lies in the transformative power of sacrifice, resilience, and love. It shows that even in the face of overwhelming hardship and painful choices, every difficult decision can pave the way toward hope, healing, and a brighter future. Despite the scars of past exploitation and loss, Amelia's journey reminds us that embracing vulnerability and accepting help can lead to unexpected growth and redemption. Ultimately, the tale teaches us that our struggles and sacrifices are not in vain. They form the foundation for a future filled with love, stability, and the promise of new beginnings.